What is up, everyone? Sean here, and welcome to the Hawke Talks. I guess you can say it's the first episode of 2020 or the decade. Hope people's 2020 has been going smooth so far, and all that jazz. Today in this Hawke Talks episode, I wanted to talk about two things that really piqued my interest to a great degree ever since my early childhood days, which is movies and video games. Always loved them because of their own visual experiences and the processes that they go through, and that's something I appreciated as I've gotten older. But as a child, I've always just loved, those two things just solely because of like the experiences of going through them. Like for movies, like the stories and the visual experiences, the cinematic sort of experience, of course, especially having to watch it on TV or in a theater. There's just some really key moments in my life that I always remember, especially with movies like Toy Story and the other Disney movies and stuff like that. All the animated movies, of course, anime or Disney or whatever. Of course, there are movies like Terminator 2 that will forever be planted in my head, and I think people can say the same as well from my generation. But anywho, same thing can be said for video games as well. When starting from the N64 for me, and then later on, played the classic consoles and all the other retro consoles and all that in between, and also the newer console generations and stuff. Point being, I love movies and video games because of their experiences and stuff. That's always It's something I always love to look forward to on my free time. Besides a couple of other things as well in my life. But anywho, movies and video games, I wanted to talk about them because of this particular topic, which is movies being treated as if they're video games. Let's rewind back a little bit with December 2019. That's when a certain movie called Cats came out. Of course, it was first revealed a while back in 2019 with their first trailer. And of course, the audiences have their own reactions, mostly negative, you can say. And, people harped on the CGI effects and stuff like that. Just the fact that a musical being turned into a movie, people were kind of like perplexed by that. But the CGI effects or the visual effects alone were subpar from what was first initially revealed. Then when the movie came out, it was pretty much a similar thing. It was pretty much so bad that the movie itself had to get updated. I guess they had to switch out the film or whatever throughout all the theaters that they were playing in, and they pretty much had an update for the movie. So to me, that seems like to be a patch update. And of course, all the people who report on these things, kind of titled it as a patch update for the movie. All the video game news articles and stuff like that pretty much titled them that way, and that really felt that way. Pretty close to something like a day one patch. A lot of these day one patches involve with video games that came out subpar or half-assed or not finished, essentially, and they have to roll out these patch updates for video games just to fix them and make sure that the customers or the consumers have pretty much what's supposed to be the final product. But this always spelled the trend of video game companies kind of half-assing their games and then finishing them later with patch updates. That's kind of what a number of companies have been using them as a way so that they can just pump these out and get money quickly and then fix the game so that they can attempt to make the customers happy. But of course, we've caught on to this, at least the gamers anyway. And so it seems like companies are, starting to, realize, and therefore they hopefully, supposedly, and for at least for the future, put a little more effort into the whole process of the whole production, so that they can roll these games out with that satisfaction that we've always been looking for any product. It seems like it's starting to slowly sort of trickle in with movies now, which it definitely would annoy me in the future if they really blow this up, because how would you feel if you have to if let's say you watch this movie, right, and then they go and announce, oh hey, we added extended cutscenes or extended scenes for a later release and stuff, and go see it or whatever, buy a ticket or whatever. And that's something that really would annoy me, because I don't want to go plan a weekend just to go see the same exact movie again when I already had my first time experience with this movie. And of course everyone's first time is always like the most magical or most sort of energetic sort of experience with any movie or with any video game and stuff. And having to get up and go to the theater just to see that same movie, it's gonna really weaken that magic or experience, in my book. Would spell a lot of production companies half-assing their movies. And we've always gone so used to with movies being the final product once they've come out during their releases. And and they've always been for the most part good experiences for me. Always love to go to the first time and really make the most out of it for these movies, especially for like the Star Wars movies or any animated movie. And so if they have to really update these movies, it's gonna be really annoying to having to keep up with that. But I think this would definitely be a trend amongst CGI movies, of course, because they kind of line up with the whole updating and stuff like that, especially with improving on the CGI effects and stuff like that. You can't really do the same with movies that have a lot of practical effects, like the camera work and the actual real life effects and stuff like that, like the explosions and the car chases and all that stuff. You can't really exactly update that real easily in that sense. So those kind of movies like the Tarantino movies would be fine, I guess, unless it involves with some sort of like controversial scene that it was so bad that they would probably release it without that scene or whatever. That's probably what we'll see if that were to be the case, or if the situation ever called for it. But for the most part, a lot of the movies like the Tarantino movies, they don't really go through that, thankfully, because that would kind of ruin the originality, the vision of what the artist had intended. And that's always something I've always respected, and that's always what I've always wanted to look forward to for these movies, is to see it in the eyes of what the director intended for the viewers or the audience and stuff. And having to kind of take that away would be something that would annoy me if that were to happen. But what would be more annoying for me is the CGI movies going through such updates, because again it would present half-assing the product, or just like not putting all the effort, and then finishing it up after release, and having to say, oh, go watch the movie again just to see the final product sort of finish that we should have done when it was by the time it was released first time. There's already been something like this happening. One example I can name right on top of my head is Avengers Endgame. Apparently Avengers Endgame came out with more scenes, and they released that for theaters for some time, I guess, and that's how they were able to achieve even more numbers and for the box office and the ticket sales and all that stuff, which is pretty sneaky if you ask me. And again, trying to bring it back to Cats, it resulted with I guess an improved experience. I guess it's supposed to improve the CGI effects. I guess they were able to remove a lot of the defects or the mistakes that they've left behind for the movie, and they were able to sort those out with the CGI effects. I think I didn't watch the movie myself, whether it was the first time or the updated version, but I'm just gonna go off by the word of mouth and stuff like that. And the point being here is that something like this is really new to me anyway. Movies always had one shot at things. For the most part, unlike video games always have a lot more room to work with, just because of the whole app updating thing. Kind of how video games are with updating and stuff like that. It's essentially software, and updating and software updates is something that's we sort of look forward to improve our experiences, whether it's for a video game or some sort of like production software or anything like that in between. But this definitely would not sit right with me when it comes to movies again. I think it'd just be super annoying, and it would spell the half-assed nature of the production process when it comes to movies. I'm definitely I'm all for the movie to be finished by the time it comes out, but I think for the most part, I mean, the companies are not going to stoop that low, I guess. But I mean, time can only tell. This could be a trend of the decade for 2020. I hope not, but we'll have to see. It's we'll I guess we'll keep a close eye on that, because movies do come out with newer scenes and stuff re-released for a couple weeks and stuff like that. So it just seems all kind of ironic to me, because video games over the years try to become like more and more like movies, with Last of Us and God of War, that was for the PS4, and a lot of games in general try to emulate that cinematic experience with the lens flares and the cinematic angles and stuff like that, and just like the characteristics they try to emulate that in video games. Even with the imperfections that you see in movies, you kind of they try to emulate that with video games for some reason. But now movies can possibly be started to be like like video games in a sense, because of the whole patch updating that could possibly take place if companies decide to make this more and more of a standard. But again, I don't think it will be the case for a lot of the movies, because movies are still use practical effects, and you can't really exactly update it with practical effects unless you try to mask it with CGI, but it would just look bad. So obviously those production crews and stuff, I don't think they'll try to take the video game approach of things for the most part. But we'll probably see some CGI heavy movies, like the animated movies, for example. That's definitely something I do not want to see them half-assed. And if I go watch them and pretty much come to realize, well, this is the half-assed version, and then they come out with the actual full final version in theaters again, and I've already seen it for the first time and stuff. So like that magic is just gonna get watered down so hard if that were to be the case. But this is all just rambling. It's all just like something that's been on my mind because of the movie Cats. Well, I guess you can say that a movie like Sonic the Hedgehog sort of went through a similar thing, except that the movie hasn't even come out yet. So they actually delayed the movie. They updated Sonic's design, and we all know how the first one was. So don't need to really talk about that again. But point being, it just seems like they seem to update it like as if it were to be a video game. But it's, I guess, cool in a way, because at least they seemingly took fan feedback and made that clear for themselves, and they actually took the effort of designing Sonic for the movie. And at the end of things, well, it actually came out a lot better than when it was first initially revealed. And at least it wasn't the final product. They just kind of just showed it, and people had their opinions about it, and they're like, oh, we should go back and fix things before we release this thing, because this does not look like a final product to these people, and we got to do something about that. So at least in that situation, that's cool. But if the movie were to come out and people spend their money on it, and then lo and behold, Sonic is redesigned or patched up, and people would probably have to go watch it again just to see Sonic, updated for the movie and stuff. Again, that would be really annoying. I would not want to definitely see anything like that for movies. I think for the most part it won't happen for most companies, but there will probably be some attempts in this decade. There will probably definitely be the re-releases with new cutscenes and stuff like that. That to me seems like, games like Final Fantasy 15, where they just release this but a video game, and then they update it over time with a lot more cutscenes, try to to fill in the holes and stuff like that in between. But that's just, I don't know, that to me would be really annoying to experience as a moviegoer, because I do not want to go see and make plans for the weekend just to go see this same movie again just so I can see the new stuff. I probably would just rather see it on Blu-ray, but that would mean I have to deal with the fact that what I watched in the theater was just a half-assed version or just an unfinished version of that movie, if that were to happen. So again, though, sorry for rambling and kind of going around in circles. I think movies for the most part will be okay, but there will probably be some attempts. Keep that practice with Blu-rays. I can just buy the Blu-ray, watch it at home, and be done with that. And I don't have to go out and drive just to go see in the theater or whatever. Definitely would not want to see movies being half-assed and be updated in the theater and stuff like that. So anyways, that's all I gotta say for this topic for the Hawke Talks regarding to movies being treated as video games. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you have any comments, leave them down below what you guys think about it when it comes to movies being updated like this, or whether you think it would happen or not, or what what's your take on this whole thing. Let's like to see that in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, really helps out as always, and really appreciate it, guys. And of course, hit the bell, set it to all, so that way you can know when I release more videos like this. So and let me know, does the bell actually help and all that stuff? Leave that in the comment section as well, so that way I can contact support and try to get that fixed or whatever, if it's a problem or whatever. But anyways, again, thank you guys so much. This has been the Hawke Talks episode with movies being treated as video games. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys in the next video. Sean out.